Hello, and welcome to our daily sketching routine. It is Saturday, December 14th, 2024, and today's topic will be what I was wanting to do yesterday, which was basically a tan skin or dark skin woman, but I'll do a man right here. And just call it tan skin. Tan skin, for lack of a better name for now. So yeah, that's what we'll do. And if you're returning, welcome back. And if you're new, welcome. I sketch and post every day. I set timers, so I'm going to do 10-minute timers, and I'll plan it out to where like each stage is in 10 minutes, and I'll see how far I can get. But of course, depending on how you want to do it, I mean, you could take longer. You don't have to rush through it. So yeah, I'll start a 10-minute timer. So I'll go over the colors I used. I'm just using, it's basically going to be markers, and you might just want to watch first, and then you'll know what I use. So I'm just using pastel colored markers, and I'm going to use the exact same colors. I posted a short of this picture, but I'll be using the exact same colors. And I don't really want to move the paper too much. But yeah, this will be an example of just an approach, just to have fun. I've never really done this kind of portrait with markers and stuff. So to start off with, just use like a Loomis head. So one thing is, and I kind of add like my sort of approach to it too. So figure out like how big the head will be. So like that big. I think that's in the camera. Okay. So yeah, you'll have the top and the bottom of the head so that it'll fit into your composition. The next thing is just figure out like the center line. It's at an angle, it's not up and down. And I just found a picture on Pinterest. This is mainly for the coloring part of it, but also just learning to draw also, or practicing. And then the brow right here, if we're going to do limits, then I guess the middle, and then figure out how far the space right here, how far out. It's a 3/4 view, so kind of put that in. And because I'm using this light color, and it's kind of fun because it adds to the luminosity as it shows through, so it's kind of nice to actually use a lot of construction lines in a way, as long as you don't confuse yourself. So figure out like this part. This is like the brow, like the width of it, and then there's gonna be like the bridge of the nose here, and then how far that goes, like the other brow. Next is figure out, these are just tips, by the way. I also have videos in the figure drawing playlist if you want to practice more on the how to draw the head, plus topic on YouTube. So the nose is about half between the chin, and I'm not trying to get a likeness per se, although it'll probably come out looking kind of similar. But yeah, I'm not trying to do like a exact likeness. And part of this is because I also want ideas for my world building, so part of it is that. And I got a little bit of late start today because I've been feeling sick, and I've been taking cold medicine, so it kind of knocked me out. So this video will come out a little bit later. The mouth it's not quite halfway. If this is half, for example, it's like a little bit up, like like where it meets the lips, and then kind of comes down a little. because of the shape of the mouth and the lips and stuff. And then the corner of the lips is about the center of the eye. So all of this stuff is pretty basic. I'm keeping it basic. I'm gonna let the markers and stuff sort of make it look interesting, and just my own intuition as I go along. And a lot of people have tutorials about this, including myself, but I think it's sometimes fun to just kind of see someone do it and then also sketch along. So I'm just going to sketch in like the basic look of the eyes right here. And then kind of adjust the nose to fit the like the cheekbone, and like the far side of the face, kind of adjust it. And like I said, because of the color, you can adjust it and it'll look okay because you're going to color over it, and it actually adds to the look of it. It looks like sunlight. And you can also use different colors. This is just to start with, because yesterday I didn't post that video, at least the audio. I showed the short because I was still figuring out like the process. That I have a little bit better idea. So then the hairline right here. Just kind of figure out the distance between the side of the face. It's about like that. And then the ear. Part of it is at an angle, so it's kind of reflected there. Now in the next pass, I will tighten up the proportions a little bit more. Part of this is because I want to keep the daily sketching habit going, of course, and I know that it's important to me, and I know it's important to some of the people watching to do this daily sketching. The jawline, line it up with the corner of the lips is usually pretty good, and then just figure out like the angle, like right here. That's usually where it's going to turn because it's the jaw. And then this part's kind of important, where the neck is and the shoulders. So just kind of round out the top of the head here, because we already established the proportion. And then the back of the skull, just use the ear as so you don't make it too narrow right here. Use the ear to help with that. I can't get behind there, but it's okay. And then another kind of important thing is like the distance where the hairline. So these are things that once you set up the proportion, then you don't have to worry so much about in the next stage. Now while you're still at so we have a couple of minutes left. At this point, because I'm using this color, I'm going to use it to kind of shade, although it's not going to be the darkest color. So part of it is because it's on white paper and it's marker, and the white of the paper will be like the highlight, unless you want to go in with white paint, which I'm not planning on doing. So with that said, I'm going to shade, but like the lightest part's going to be right here, which I might still cover at the end, or I might just leave or something like that. So for example, like this is the lightest part of the cheekbone, so I'll just leave that and start to shade in some of this. This side doesn't really have that. And same thing here. This is kind of like where the light, so it's picking up light right here. So you can just outline it because you're going to cover up this yellow color. And you can use a different color and see what the effect is. So yeah, this is the sketch right here. And so for the next one, this 10 minutes is almost over. I'm going to go in with, so these are the pastel like Sharpie. They're pretty cool. I like them. I'm going to use like the light brown color. And I'm just using the thinner side. They're pretty neat because they have like two sides to them. So I'm going to get started, but the 10 minutes is about to be over. So again, you don't have to do these in 10 minutes. I mean, it's up to you. And these colors will not be exact. I'm making a point to use the exact same colors I used yesterday just because I like to do that whenever I'm learning something, just to see if I can replicate it. So I'll start another 10-minute timer. So at this point, I'm going to go in, and I still consider this like the sketch, but like it's sort of the shading also, in the sense that I'm going to be thinking about the shadow shapes and the dark values, the local values. Like the hair is going to be dark, so I already know that. So I'll start with something that it's kind of obvious, so like the jawline, for example. And so I want to not overwork it. So I'm going to mainly think about the outline. So I'm not going to like go crazy with this color just yet. But I'm using it to get the drawing to be more tighter looking. So for example, and again, depends on how much time you spend on this, and also it depends on how much of a likeness you're wanting to get. I'm not wanting to get too much of a likeness. It'll look like it, but it won't look just like it. So I'm thinking of like the shapes, like the dark shapes, and just making this part look correct. And yeah, you can kind of see what I did in the short of the previous portrait. So I don't want to overwork it. Just want to make some decisive lines, because I kind of overworked the previous one, and that's because I wasn't sure how to use these markers or what the result would be. And there was more freshness in the beginning. I thought it looked, but like I like the result too, but I kind of overworked it basically. So this is a way to kind of, it's just a method that I think is pretty easy, but like a good practice to come up with characters and stuff, or to just draw a portrait. If you were wanting it to look just like the person, I mean, I would be maybe a little more careful, I guess, or do a grid. I don't know, like I don't really do that too much. I don't really try to draw portraits of people too much, and if I did, I would do it kind of cartoony, stylized. But I mean, I have done some. So yeah, right here is not too difficult. Since I already did like a pretty good sketch, I'm just kind of looking at where it seems like the dark area, but they're not going to be like the darkest darks, but generally speaking. Now the final step where like the detail, like I probably won't do it on camera, I probably won't have time, but that's really where you can go in and add like the fine details, where you can zoom into the picture. Let's figure out this part here. So you see how like that wasn't that exact, and that's okay at this point. But the fine detail would be using a smaller pen. So maybe like a smaller tip, and then just drawing that like better, depending on how loose you want it to be. So the hair is going to be dark. It's actually going to be darker than this brown, but I'm going to go ahead and lay down this tone because it's kind of good to let the like the different colors come through. And I'm not really going to worry too much about the direction of it because it's just going to be tone. And the direction, I'll probably use the this black brush pen. But like when you go in with that part, then like basically the next part, the detail, this is shading is what I'm calling it, then you can think a little bit more about like the hair flow and all that kind of stuff. So that's the tone there. And at this point, I mean, if you need to adjust it, I would adjust it now. But if the drawing is looking pretty good, then just kind of start to get it ready for the next part. So now that I got this far, what I'm going to do is start to... Am I even in the camera? Okay. So what I'm going to do is like take the same like kind of dark brown color here. Well, it's not dark brown, but darker brown. I'm going to start to blend it. So I'm thinking, for example, like, so we put down like this yellow color, but it's actually a little bit darker there, but that it helps to kind of have that yellow shine through. So I'm going to create like a gradation, the value gradation. So I'm just going to crosshatch to begin with, just to get it going, basically. And this is to not overwork it. If you're a little bit more careful at this part, it'll help to not like overwork it, which means having to go over it like a lot. So you can kind of see like some of the dark areas. And so yeah, you're rounding out like the form. And you're using that yellow color that you put down as a guide. Now, I'm using it as a crosshatch technique. Now, at the end of it, you might want to just cover up. And again, this is just a technique. Like that, I mean, I'm liking. So, a lot of different approaches. Yeah, I'm being pretty loose as far as like what direction. In general, sort of just looking at like it's all kind of going a little bit in the same direction, but it doesn't have to. A lot of this will be covered up, but like it's going to show through a little bit. So yeah, I wanted to do something kind of fun. I mean, I think it's satisfying to do portraits. So you'll notice like the way that I like to talk about doing like these sketches is like, so we got about a minute left, is to like, it looks okay like this, and you could come in and like work on this some more. In the next stage, I'm still going to call it shading. I'm going to get it started. So I've got this gray. So we had like the light brown, and then this is like light gray. And when you go over it again, it's going to be a little bit darker. It's not going to be like black, but it'll be a little bit darker, and you can start to model the shadows, the forms. So like you'll see, you'll get kind of like another layer of modeling. So it's still shading, but it's like starting to go towards the detail. And yeah, I'm doing this in a way where I could like convert this into an OC, an original character. For those who don't know what an OC is, which I never called it that growing up, but it's what it is, okay? So you can kind of use this to sort of blend, get that gradation going. So part of why I wanted to use markers is because I could scan this in and just make it look nicer on the computer, or just use it as like a study. So that's 10 minutes. I'll start another one. This might be a 40-minute, I don't know. We'll see. But it's pretty efficient. You'll notice like every 10 minutes we make a pretty good progress. So I'm going to continue to model this. Kind of round out the forms. Some areas I don't want it to have the gray. It's kind of a personal preference thing. So that's pretty good. The next thing would be I'm going to use this felt tip pen that is gray, and because I also have like black. And I just kind of want to do that because as soon as I use this, it's going to be a lot more, it's going to make it pop out a lot more. And so now I would only do this if I was pretty sure I've got the drawing looking good, like the character. And then, but like it still affords me one more level of detail when I go in with like the black. So yeah. I'm going to use this to begin with, and then there's some areas that I'll just leave it at this gray. Now at this part, you want your line work to be pretty nice, meaning not like indecisive, because you could be kind of like that with like the markers, but this one sort of make it look the way you want it to look, without going over it, like noodling with it. So it'll start to look more finished, but you can still have one more level with the black pen, and you can even go in with like an even smaller pen if necessary. Kind of like this. Now I'm not going to go too crazy because some of this, I mean, I want it to look good, so some of this I have to be a little bit more, take more time. I'm kind of being quick about it here for the sake of the video. But this is where this is like, it's shading, but it's basically detailing, because these are the small shapes. This is where a lot of the likeness will actually start to show up, because you're correcting like the angles. And I wouldn't outline everything unless you're going for that look. You don't have to. I'm going to leave some room for the Because for the hair, I'm probably going to use the black brush pen somewhat, not for all of it. So yeah, I'll do another 10 minutes of this. Got about 5 minutes here. It's not a bad way to approach it, actually. But it's good to have a system. Just kind of wanted to share a process with you. And then from here, you can kind of do whatever. But yeah, after you kind of set this up, I mean, after that, it's, I'll do one more because I feel like you might get tripped up at the part where you fill in. I mean, you could actually have it look kind of like this and it wouldn't be that bad. But what's going to happen is that when I go in with like the dark black, it's going to make this look less finished is what's going to happen. So yeah, I would be kind of sparing with this until the next step. I'm just kind of using this to outline things, but not everything. So for example, like the lips are definitely gonna have some shadow there, like under the lip. So it's starting to get there. But yeah, I wouldn't overdo it because, well, like the cast shadow will pick up some, because you can't take back. Like if you put down a dark color, you kind of have to live with it. So now it's really about getting this drawing to look good. It's not even so much the reference anymore. So you're going to use the reference to kind of help you, but at this point you have enough of a drawing to focus on making the drawing look good. So part of why I'm doing it this way is because I want to have like the different colors interact with each other instead of just covering them up. Alright, so I'm going to get to the next stage. So I'm going to, it's got a couple of minutes on this one, and I'll do like another 10 minute. I'm going to use this black, and I'm going to go in the direction of kind of the hair flow just to begin with. So I'm going to go like this, because I'm not going to cover the whole thing. And I'm going to use like the brush strokes to kind of draw the hair, basically. And just be pretty sparing about it. Kind of like that. And think about like the highlights. So the highlights over here, and then I think that's all I would use this for like this particular sketch. And then I can go ahead, once I do that, to balance it out, I will darken the eyebrows. Again, not filling the whole thing in, letting some of the color come through. And then after this, I'll do another 10 minutes like I said, but it would probably, after the next one where we're detailing, because we're detailing now, so I'll do 10 minutes, but then you might want to leave it alone and then come back and add the final kind of detail to it. So at this point, so that's 10 minutes, I'll start another one and that'll be the last. So basically this took about 40 minutes to get this far. But again, don't worry too much about how long it takes. Just use this as a kind of a guide to see like the progress of it. It could take longer. It probably wouldn't be quicker. This is pretty quick in the sense that I didn't have to go back and fix anything. So I'm just kind of checking the photo for like the fine details. Like I may or may not go exactly like the photo. But that's what the smaller pen is for. So we're getting like the fine details, the small shapes. Kind of like this. Can make the hair look a little bit more detailed. And then yeah, I would just use this black pen to do the it's like the highlights in the hair, but just make it look darker. Now there is one more thing that helps, so we'll shade the face because that'll help. So yeah, I'm just kind of covering up some of this and blending it in, making it look more like hair. But this is the kind of stuff that you just kind of take your time and work on. And as long as you don't mess up your drawing, you'll be alright. Just stick with the like the good part of it. So what was I gonna say? Yeah, to kind of blend in this face, like do it gradually. That's one thing, is take your time with it. So part of the color, like again, this was just an example of the color scheme, and I'm gonna make it look kind of similar because I'm using the exact same colors, but the balance of it, like how much of each color sort of will shift the skin tone. So for example, I'm going to start to use this as the predominant skin tone and just kind of gradually build up the main color of the skin. And the way we did the highlights kind of left it helps us to remember like the form, and also it acts as like the highlight because the white of the paper will be the highlight, because I really don't want to go in with like a white paint pen or something like that. So just do it like this, and then what will happen is there'll be some areas that'll be the darkest of this skin tone. So if you were to actually cover up like that part, but I would leave that for like final detail, because it's easy to overwork it if you don't. So some of the cross-hatching that you see me doing, so this is good for cross-hatching like with a pen also. You'll see that I'm going across the form and not with the form. If you go with the form, it'll look kind of like this, where it stands out more, it looks more defined. So if you go across the form, it looks more like it's turning that form. But if I go this way, it'll look more like I'm defining it. So for example, if I go along like that, it'll look like a core shadow kind of thing. And I'm just using the white areas as a guide to the to how to shade it. But at this point, I pretty much know I have the picture, and so it's just a matter of not messing it up. But one thing is, if you want to start to make it look darker without, because you may not need to go darker than this. So for example, if I were to start to cover the whole thing with this actual color here, you'll see that it'll start to turn the form even more. So there's going to be some areas that are going to be like that. That's basically going to be saturated with the with this color. But again, that's so you can turn the form that way. But that's just going to be just take your time with that. So like this will turn the forehead area right there. So you're just getting the shapes to be smaller. So we got about 3 minutes left. So that's how you do that part. I mean, you'll do more than that, but or I will. The other thing is to kind of figure out where the just to make the picture look a little bit more interesting. You can go in with like a kind of a cool color, because this is warm, and I just picked something like a light blue and start to introduce it. So for men, for example, they'll tend to, I mean women too, but for men it'll be because of like the beard and stuff, it'll be a little bit more obvious. The starts to turn gray, like, or a cooler color. So instead of just using gray, you can use like a lighter color like this. And just introduce it in areas that'll make it, give it more interest. Not all over, but some areas. Usually around like the chin. And then also go back to like the gray. And just start to blend it in a little bit more. Now at the end, the lips could have a little bit more like reddish color, but you may not need that, so I wouldn't mess with that yet. But yeah, hopefully that was interesting or fun or helpful in some way. Basically, the next step is just to study the reference and start to close all these little shapes and make it look more detailed. And that's what I'll keep working on. But before I sign off, I want to thank you for joining me today for our daily sketching routine. And if you like these videos, please support the channel by liking and subscribing and leaving any comments if you want to have anything to say, anything good, or questions. And until next time, keep on sketching.